What's up, everybody? AJ from Knights of the Apex here, coming to you from the Coda, COVID, Corona, quarantine, cave, compound, whatever you want to call it. Hope everybody's staying safe. I'm doing my best to catch up on content to keep everybody occupied. So please like and subscribe, hit that bell icon to stay up to date with all of the content that will be coming out. Going to do a mixture of reviews, ridiculous things. If you've been following along, maybe you already saw the gummy bear season challenge that we got going on, the Hoyt toilet paper roll challenge that I took part in, as well as some other stuff that we got coming down the pipeline. But today we're talking more stabilizers, specifically Quattro stabilizers. Now, if you watched my last video, you saw me cover the wooden Dentro stabilizer from Quattro Archery. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the brand new carbon fiber brother to the Dentro, the Vulcan. This is the newest carbon fiber stabilizer offering from Quattro. I'm not just going to be covering the stabilizer, but Quattro also sent me the Vero back bar mount as well as another Vulcan to test out this front and sidebar setup. If you follow Knights of the Apex on Instagram or have been reading along on the website, you know that this is definitely a different type of setup than myself or any of the other crew members run. So I'll be talking about that, what I think about it for a hunting rig, my impressions of it so far, having run it for on and off for a couple months now, as well as how I kind of came to the weight stacks and the angles and this particular setup. But before we get into the review, disclosures regarding my relationship to Quattro. I talked about this a lot in the Dentro review, so I'm not going to rehash everything. I have no official affiliation. I'm not getting paid by Quattro. I'm not a pro staff member or anything like that. I'm just a big fan of the brand, the people behind it. I love their products. They like my content, so they did send me the Vero back bar and this Vulcan setup to test and share and review with all of you. That all out of the way, let's get into this review. Now, I'm gonna say right off the bat, these things are freaking sexy. If I had the naming rights to these stabilizers, I would have called them the Mr. Steal Your Girls, but I don't, and I think Vulcan is a little catchier, so props to Quattro on that. But comparing the look of the Vulcans to the wooden Dentro, the wooden Dentro feels like an heirloom item. It's furniture grade wood and the CNC machined end caps. It feels like something that was made from reclaimed wood taken out of an old barn on a ranch somewhere out west and handed down to you from your grandfather. In contrast, these carbon fiber Vulcans, with their unique carbon fiber layering pattern and just the appearance that they have, they feel and look like something that was stolen right off of a Formula One car. They just feel very high tech, they're striking to the eye, and what gives them that unique appearance is the layout of and the construction of the carbon fiber weave in these stabilizers. So when I was editing the video, I realized that I completely butchered my description of the construction, the carbon fiber wrap of the Vulcan stabilizers. So I talked to Hano over at Quattro, and it's a pretty difficult process to describe, but basically standard high-end stabilizers like some of us are kind of used to seeing use a basket weave, right? It's a consistent weave of carbon fiber layered into each other. It looks like a wicker basket, right? If you can imagine. The Quattro Vulcans, what gives them their unique look and added strength is the segments of carbon fiber that are woven together. It almost looks like a semi-random weave. It's not. It's just different. It's a kind of almost like a staggered weave. So what that does is those different fibers, when they're layered on top of each other in opposing patterns, it gives additional strength in all directions to the stabilizer. It's actually the same process that Lamborghini uses in parts of their new Huracan frame. What's that mean for us bow hunters? I don't know, it might not mean crap, but it looks freaking cool, and it definitely gives these stabilizers a unique look that you won't find anywhere else. Now back to the review. Now the shaft, as I just talked about, is a carbon fiber weave. The end caps are CNC machined and they're held onto the shaft with a mil-spec grade epoxy. In talking with Hano, who is the proprietor of Quattro, he told me that this epoxy is so strong that if you were to try and pull those end caps off, you would actually delaminate the carbon fiber before you'd be able to break those end caps off of the stabilizer. I'm not going to test that, I'm going to take his word for it, but as somebody who has had end caps and components come loose and turn and just fall off completely on higher end stabilizers. That's something that I definitely appreciate. Like the end caps, the variable weights that come on Quattro stabilizers are also CNC machined. Each stabilizer comes with, I want to say this is probably a 2-ounce weight, it's a fatter weight, and as well as a skinnier weight that's probably a 1-ounce weight, and they also sell additional weights on their website so you can mix and match. So we've covered appearance. As far as fit and function, absolutely superb. Function wise, I mean, it's a high-end carbon fiber stabilizer. It holds weight at the end. I haven't noticed any flex. I've been using these things on and off with my Dentro for the last couple of months. They've held up just fine. I haven't had anything loosen up or come off on me. And I've taken these on and off my bows several times. And with stabilizers, usually that's when you start to notice things start to wear on it, is when you're actually taking it on and off the bow a lot. Certain pieces of hardware will start to come loose, show signs of wear, won't tighten up as easy as they once did, but none of that has happened with the Vulcans. I've been very, very impressed. And from a price point perspective, they're even more impressive. The Vulcans start at $60 US for the shortest length, and then they go up from there. $60 for a high-end stabilizer is extremely affordable and beyond competitive compared to some of the other stabilizers on the market. Quattro goes even beyond this when you start talking about their stabilizer packages, and those are even more competitive than the majority of the market, at least from the stabilizer companies that I keep track of. The exact setup that you see behind me, which is a 10-inch front stabilizer, Vero back bar, and Vero back bar mount, and 8-inch Vulcan back bar. That exact package on Quattro's website right now is running $150 US. Just to give you some context, a Matthews flatline stabilizer, just one Matthews flatline stabilizer, is going to run you anywhere from $130 to $140 depending on the length and where you're purchasing it from. So absolutely phenomenal as far as fit, finish, value, and quality. I would put these top marks all around for the Vulcans, and I really do enjoy the Vero back bar mount. So I'll talk more about this exact setup with a back bar, because if you've been following Knights of the Apex on Instagram at all, you know that this is a very different setup from anything that I typically run and anything any of the other crew members or guys' bows that I build. It's different than anything they typically run. This is a setup that you're starting to see more and more bow hunters run, and having used this system on and off for the last couple months, I definitely understand why. The added weight at the bottom of the bow just increases that pendulum effect and really steadies out your balance, especially at full draw and through the entire shot process. I definitely notice less pin float, and I'm not somebody that is super critical. I can usually shoot pretty well with a decent amount of pin float, but I'm never going to complain about less. But definitely feels more balanced. That impulse of my bow after the shot feels a lot more consistent. My bow remains balanced both at full draw, as the arrow's passing through it, and once the arrow's left, it just kind of drops away, but the bow stays balanced the entire way through the shot. There's no canting left or right, front or back, and that's something that I really have liked with this system. Running a quiver with both a front and back stabilizer does get very heavy. I definitely notice that I start to creep in, especially when I'm shooting with a back tension release like my Silverback. So that's just something to keep in mind if, say, you're a smaller guy or you're not used to running so much weight on your bow or such a heavy setup. It may take some getting used to and a little bit of kind of building up strength to get to a point where you can shoot a rig like this consistently over and over again. As far as setting up a system like this, running different weights, angles, and whatnot, I consulted with Hano over at Quattro, a couple other target archers that I know, watched countless YouTube videos. So, you know, your typical self-education archery experience. And what I kind of came to the conclusion of is most target archers, or most guys that run this sort of system on their hunting rigs, kind of say start with twice the weight in the back as you would in the front. Now, I know from shooting this bow that I don't typically like to run or need to run a lot of weight up front, so I just took the two skinny weights that come with the stabilizers and I put those on the 10-inch stabilizer, and then I took the two heavier weights and I put those on my back bar. What I noticed through this whole process was it seemed as though my front stabilizer really had the greatest input and affected my control of my pin float. And the back stabilizer was really more for balance and impulse and keeping the bow balanced throughout the entire shot process. So when once I had my weights, that's kind of what I started with, and this is honestly what I've stuck with. As far as the angle of the back bar goes, I started with it completely parallel, close to the bow, as close to the bow as possible, completely parallel with the ground, and then I would actually just move it slightly until move it down and out, because I did have to account for clearance with the limbs. So I'd move it down and out to give me enough clearance until it got to a point where I noticed that both during and after my shot, the bow was staying balanced. And then I also videotaped myself a couple of times, and I noticed on my shots that the bow was kicking out a little bit, one way or the other. So then I would move the back bar in or out slightly, which was actually very easy to do thanks to the Vero back bar mount. Now this mount is pretty simple. It's just very well made, has everything that you kind of need. You just loosen it up and tighten it down with the Allen screws on there. All the hardware is super oversized, but one of the things that I really appreciated was there are markings on the different positions, so you can easily adjust and fine tune the back bar and the different angles and know exactly where you are. So I really appreciated that. It made it very simple. I would literally just move it either one hash mark or a half hash mark each time I would take a couple of shots, and just play with it back and forth, kind of guess and check until I found this position, which is where I'm really happy. If I was to do it all over again, looking back on it, I could have probably saved myself a lot of time, because it turns out I like the bow to feel balanced when I'm holding it just like this. So if I was to probably do this all over again from scratch, what I would probably do is I'd run a string, tie it to the limbs so that it's just above my pivot point where my hand would go, and then I would play with the stabilizers and the weights until the bow just kind of hung completely balanced. That would be my recommendation. I'm sure there are plenty of people kind of cursing me in the comments right now, but if you have a better way for setting up stabilizers in a front back bar position, I'm all ears, so drop those comments below. Like I said, this is kind of a newer system, newer rig style for me, but I have enjoyed it a lot, and it has made shooting my bow a lot of fun. I have been running this system on and off for the last couple months. I constantly go back and forth between this setup and my Dentro. As far as which one I like better, it's really difficult for me to say. I get that question all the time ever since I started posting pictures and videos of these stabilizers, like, which one do you like better? It's so hard to say. It depends on kind of what my goal is for that particular day, which one I'm going to run, because I shoot both setups identically well. If I'm being totally honest, I'll either run my 8-inch Dentro with my quiver on the bow, with my tight spot 5-arrow quiver on the bow, or I'll run the front and back bar mount like you see it right here, and I'll have my arrows or my quiver in my backpack or on my hip. If I was going to be stationary, like I'm in a tree stand or a ground blind, I know I'm not going to be moving. If I have enough room, I would choose this setup. If quarantine lets up and I'm able to make it out to Total Archery Challenge, this is probably going to be the setup I take with me. If I'm going turkey hunting, I'm going to be running gunning, right? I want my quiver on my bow. I want to be able to quickly reload if need be. I'm probably going to go for the 8-inch Dentro with the quiver mounted to the side. But if you were somebody considering running the Dentro in this sort of front and back bar setup, and you're not sure which one to go with, either the Vulcan or the Dentro, you're not going to be disappointed either way. They both have totally different looks to them. I do think that the Dentro, because it's a little heavier, and the fact that it's wood, soaks up vibration just slightly more, but you're really splitting hairs at that point. Honestly, the performance between the two stabilizers is so close. If you're in the market for a new stabilizer, or you've just been looking to upgrade your existing setup, definitely check these out, and they are running sales on a lot of their products right now. I'll have a link down below for the Quattro's website, so definitely check that out. But thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody who's reached out to me via Instagram. I think it's important in these times of crisis, when we're all in lockdown, that we kind of make the most of it, and it seems like all of you out there really are. I appreciate everybody keeping in touch. I hope everyone's staying safe, and that the only downside to this is that there is no downside, and you're getting some rest, some quality time, and you're getting to hone your craft, hopefully shoot some arrows, maybe get out hunting, enjoying the outdoors, but hopefully everybody's staying safe. Drop a comment down below. What do you think? What do you think about these stabilizers, the setups? Are you considering something like this? I want to hear from you. So thank you everybody once again. Have a good one and stay safe.